Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sport. And as you can see, I'm wearing the Borussia Monchengladbach shirt, which we actually got from Monchengladbach itself last season. And me and my good friend Sebastian True, after a truly wonderful win for Monchengladbach. 3-2. They were 2-0 down. And then literally at the start of the second half, they led 3-2. And they have beaten the champions of Germany, the cup winners of Germany, the European champions, Bayern Munich, 3-2. They did another comeback like they did in this fixture last season at home. And, Seb, what a win for Mönchengladbach.
Mainly a good win so that they can be in contention again for top four. Because, no. It's a great win. It's always a great win against Bayern, and that's just for any given German club. It was also just the way they managed to reduce Bayern's chances. I mean, Bayern might have had a few shots, but I don't remember too many clear-cut chances. So, yeah, great win. And Marco Rose, we have to talk about him even more now for these bigger jobs that might be coming up. Say, for instance, in a neighbouring Dortmund.
But this is it, because you're right, because like performances like that, Dortmund are going to look into it and think. What I like about Marco Rose is that he's at a club where he is limited, and I always believe that the real managers are the ones that come from the bottom to the top. Okay, Salzburg. I'm not saying Salzburg are at the bottom, but I'm saying that he's actually going to clubs where he has limits, but he's got to make the most out of the things he's got. And I feel like he's done that with Mönchengladbach this season, because a lot of people, Mönchengladbach fans could compare last season and go, but this time last season we were actually potentially going to win the Bundesliga. But let's look at it at the moment, where they've got out of the Champions League group stages, where they got out of a group stage where it involved Inter Milan and Real Madrid, who are clubs massive clubs in Europe, and I don't care what form they're in. That is a big achievement.
It's a massive feat, yeah.
It's a massive feat, and people that look at the table and think, hang on, they've gone into a phase in Europe which they're not used to balancing with that and the league. They didn't do that this last season. They were in the Europa League, which kind of didn't go well. But they've improved in the last 12 months, and look what they're doing in the Champions League. They are in the last 16 against Manchester City, which, okay, Man City will probably win. We'll see. But it's a big achievement, more money for the club, especially during these tough times. So, I think people need to realise, Seb, there's a big thing going on at the club as well as the Bundesliga.
Borussia Monchengladbach has become more than we can imagine, but it's not even being seventh now. No one's losing their head. I mean, even if they trust Marco Rose to get them back into the top 5, 6, whatever, they might not. They might not trust him to do that, but that doesn't matter, because where he's got them right now is by far better than where they were before him. And this is what Mönchengladbach do. Everything is a process, and it's all well looked into. If he finishes 9th this season, he's still the manager at the end of the season. If he wants to have a contract extension, he'll have it. He's got so much goodwill, and he's deserved that. It's a great win because it's the second time that this has happened. He did it last season the same. They came back. And yes, I'm putting in that pun again. It's Borussia MonchenCOMEbach.
Which will be the title of our video.
Thank goodness for that. But this is good. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it was as I mentioned, it was tactically spot on. They limited Bayern Munich, but Bayern Munich, I worry about Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
Against Mainz, that's not good enough.
And at home.
At home, but this time away to Mönchengladbach. How can they expect to dominate Europe when they can leak goals in so easily? I don't know. It's worrying. And we've talked about this before, that there are only 3 teams that have conceded more goals than Bayern Munich, or the same amount and more goals than Bayern Munich this season. Sorry, no, that was wrong. Badly formulated. 3 teams have conceded more goals than Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga this year. And that's bad. That's really bad.
I think as well, the Mainz game against Bayern Munich, I did watch some of that. And when they went 2-0 down, I didn't think the game was over because I thought, look, if Bayern Munich have the time, at least one half of a game left, they could still win it, and they did. They scored 5. But the problem I have is that a lot of people could look at that scoreline and think, oh, it's just Bayern Munich having a normal day. No. That was a bit of a wake-up call, if you ask me, in terms of you're not at the level you want to be this team that were good, that were champions of Europe last season. And look, I get it. Some teams, even at the best, look at Liverpool at the moment, they're not at their best. But now and again, they get the results when they don't deserve it. But with Bayern Munich, they've got a big legacy at the moment where they need to prove that they are the best team in the world. And for me, they're not showing it right now. But I'll be honest with you, Seb. I watched tonight's game, and for the fact that they were 2-0 up as well against not the best of Monchengladbach teams at the moment. And, normally this fixture is a big occasion for the fans, that the stadium would be full, it'd be loud, it would be a definite 12th man for Borussia. But tonight it was, you're playing in front of no one. So it doesn't matter where you're playing. But the way I see it, you look at the Bayern Munich defensive line, non-existent, if you ask me.
Absolutely. And you mentioned at halftime, you said to me during our live stream that this is where Mönchengladbach probably need their 12th man, which is the stadium. And
yeah,
it's weird enough that they didn't. Bayern gave them the 12th man. It's weird to say.
Yeah.
And also I mention this a lot to people, expected goals. I know you're not a big fan of expected goals, but Bayern Munich only recently, for instance, against Mainz, outperformed their opponents in expected goals. Even if you look at their game against Leipzig outperformed them by a goal for expected goals. Against Stuttgart, they won 3-1, yet Stuttgart's expected goals were 1.39 and Bayern Munich's was 0.89. This is not just a one-off thing. This is recurring for Bayern Munich. They are extremely clinical, which is great when you've got someone like Lewandowski. Let it be known, 20 goals this season in the Bundesliga. Only second place is Erling Haaland at 10. So that in itself is amazing. But if the goals aren't there anymore, which is very plausible, they're going to concede goals and lose games. This is the case tonight. So they lose tonight, and their goals actually come from one penalty and one shot from outside the box, which was from Goretzka creating his own chance. And honestly, as well done on his behalf. But apart from that, I didn't think Bayern were going to score, even the chance they had. I thought Mönchengladbach could have scored a couple of others with certain one-on-ones, but Bayern, no. And it's worrying because you can have an off day and then score only 2 goals. That's what Bayern's off day is, and that's not negligible. But if they have an off day of scoring 2 goals, the other team can score a minimum 2 goals. It's not good enough.
I think the way I see it is I've started to think about it more of teams that I watch regularly in terms of how the goals are scored. And I feel, me, I'm a big Man United fan. I watched the last few games before the Man City game where when they beat Wolves, it was a last-minute winner and it was a deflection, which it was just a bit of luck. Wolves were gutted because it just happens. You can lose games like that and it can be very harsh. And then, you're going to have games like that, fair enough. But then the following game, United won because of a penalty, which United have won a lot of games because of penalties in the last few months. Now, that says to me, United can't score team goals. And I can't remember. Martial scored a header against Villa that night as well. But, it makes you wonder, where are the goals really coming from? And look what happened against Man City. They go up against a decent Man City who have a very good defensive line at the moment with John Stones, for example. And when they go up against them, they don't know what to do. There's no existence up front because they're not a team that score team goals for me. And I look at Bayern Munich, and tonight showed it, a penalty, which Lewandowski is going to 99% of the time score. And then another goal was just, let's have a shot. Oh, it's gone in. That's how I feel. And I think people need to look into goals like that when they talk about a team, because you can easily talk right now. Me and you could have not watched that game and think that was a tight game. Bayern Munich just had an off day. No, they were poor. They were 2-0 up, and they couldn't hold it. That's a worry.
There's also I mentioned that. So the first goal was Jonas Hoffmann. The second goal was provided by Stindl. The second goal was Hoffmann provided by Stindl.
Yeah.
The third goal was Hoffmann provided by Stindl, but then given to Neuhaus. It's a recurring pattern. And if you're a team like Bayern Munich, who is supposed to be aiming for the top European accolades, 3 of the same passages of play happening in one game,
adapt.
You should be able to adapt, and yet they can't. And Borussia Monchengladbach in the beginning of the game, the first 30 minutes, they were trying it. We know what Bayern's weakness is, their high defensive line. So get the ball in behind. Yet the problem with Dortmund, with Mönchengladbach at the beginning was the passes were so bad. They were just terrible. And once the passes started coming off, okay, we're getting the chances. And they got the chances 3-0. Simple. And you can't be a top team like that in Europe and give a team like Mönchengladbach, or any team for that matter, the same types of chances so many times in the match. Otherwise, you're going to just constantly concede. Because once you see a pattern working, you're going to work on that pattern and just keep going for it. And that's what Mönchengladbach did. Bayern Munich just didn't think to stop it. Well, didn't even want to in some ways. And obviously get penalised for it. And my boy Neuhaus, I mentioned him too much to everyone, but scoring that goal, the decisive one. He scores a goal tonight, and usually when he scores a goal, it's a pretty nice one.
Yeah.
But he's got a range of passing that's
it's
delicious.
so good.
Delicious. So but Bayern Munich can't go far in Europe if they want to continue this method.
Yeah.
And Alaba can't begin to ask for 30 million euros a year if he can't do the basics.
That's a crazy amount.
If he can't begin to do the basics of defending.
But this is the thing.
His interception game was actually quite good.
Is any defender worth that?
Probably not. I don't know.
I've never.
His interception game is good, but at 30 million. And
no, I'd pay that for someone like Lewandowski. Not.
But that's his salary.
Yeah. But I wouldn't pay that much for a defender, though. If that makes sense. People who wants to grow up to be the next Alaba. Compared to Lewandowski, who's a poster boy, and it's like he's probably selling more shirts.
I'll counteract you on this one. I'm a defender myself, so I pride myself in the defensive side of things.
Jack Grealish in defence.
Yeah, well, that's another matter.
Look at the hair.
I like defenders. I'm a big fan of Simeone in 2014 defending. It was brilliant. I know it's not beautiful football, and I'll admit that. But it's
actually he was
seconds how disciplined.
He was seconds away from winning the Champions League with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Di Maria incoming. But then, or even the other day when I see AC Milan winning 2-0 against Benevento, that was a defensive masterclass. Yeah. And I love to see it. Bayern don't offer that, do they?
No.
I mean, you could want to be the poster boy, that's fine, but they don't offer any defensive reassurance. How many times did Pavard get it through his legs tonight? I don't know.
And we both do not rate Pavard at all.
We don't rate Pavard. No,
I think my problem is with Pavard is that a lot of people remember him for that goal against Argentina, and then it just makes him a bigger name from that goal. It's a great goal.
He's capable of that very often. Every now and then he gets a shot from outside the box on the half volley, and he'll hit the post or something. He's very capable of it. It was not a fluke, but that's about his limit.
Yeah, and if you're talking about a whole match performance, that doesn't go. That's only his highlight, if that makes sense sometimes, and that's not a good thing.
Pavard is okay. So one thing I want to say about Pavard is his positioning is actually quite decent for right back, which I've rarely seen recently. I know I can label Alexander-Arnold, who sits behind his defensive line, and it's just awful. But he's a very well positioned right back. But if you're not going to do anything with that, like going for a tackle or stop an opposing player, then you're even more useless than the wall. It's true. And well, I'm going up Pavard tonight, but every single Hoffmann chance came from that left side, so he deserves the criticism. Against Mainz, he was taken off, and Kimmich was put at right back because Pavard was so out of sorts.
But maybe,
And-
I mean, yeah, that's a bit of a ring in his ear to go improve, or you're going in a way.
yeah, that's the thing. But then when you think about Bayern Munich, I think about the lack of depth in midfield, maybe
Yeah,
because they sold Cuisance, they didn't sell him, they loaned him out.
loaned him
They
out.
Thiago Alcantara, they sold him, sorry, and they've got people like Musiala and Javi Martinez playing in some matches in there, and one who's not ready yet, and one who probably shouldn't be playing any minutes whatsoever in Javi Martinez. So that their depth is lacking in midfield, and then up front you've got who replaces Lewandowski, Choupo-Moting, Xerxes. Okay,
Yeah,
so the depth is definitely in defense because they always usually have 4 centre backs playing in defense. They have Hernandez sometimes, they have Alaba, they have Sule, they have Boateng, they have Pavard. The list
and
goes on.
Boateng makes mistakes, for
Yeah,
example.
but the depth is there in defense. So usually,
Yeah.
and they've even got Sarr in there, so they shouldn't have a problem in defense. Far from it, but yet this is where the problem is. And Pavard keeps getting run over by any sort of opposition, and it's not good enough. And if Hansi Flick were, he probably couldn't have seen it coming because it was right in the beginning of the second half that Mönchengladbach got their third goal, but Pavard's just not closing down Hoffman either to get that goal, and then Neuhaus has all the space in the world to shoot.
Yeah, and
Defensively, it's not good enough.
But you said it before as well that he only made one substitution.
He made
and
one
that
substitution,
and
yeah.
that third goal from Mönchengladbach was very early on in the second half. You know, plenty of time to change tactics, make a difference, and they didn't. And I always believe I've seen it.
Rose did. He made 4 substitutions.
Yeah.
And he was trying to keep it fresh defensively to keep it to
and he was absolutely spot on because I don't recall big moments after the third goal from Bayern Munich to actually say that was close. Okay, there was that goal line clearance, but you know,
I think it's not even goal line clearance. He blocked the header from Sule.
Yeah, and the goalkeeper Sommer was there. I think it might have been stopped anyway, but I always have this theory that if a manager has got plenty of options on the bench and he doesn't use them with plenty of time left and they're losing, that says to me they haven't got belief in their bench. I might be wrong.
Yes.
But it doesn't look good.
Absolutely. And we said the only change that he made was Costa for Coman. And we said before, if you weren't injured Coman for the match before, Coman would be a starter in this match.
Yeah.
So what's he done at the 68th minute when changing? He's just gone to his reverted tactics, which didn't work. Did Flick run out of ideas? Did he not trust his bench? They're all questions that start to point the finger at Flick on this. This defeat could be put at his door. That given, I think Mönchengladbach. I keep saying Dortmund. I'm very sorry for that.
They're rivals, I guess.
Defended really well, and they had their 3 at the back. And Marco Rose has put out on his match sheets 3 at the back a lot of the times, and never actually stuck with it. It's been a 4-2-3-1. But this time it actually was a 3 at the back. They stayed 3 at the back. They stayed tight and reduced Bayern Munich from actually getting in their box. Talk about heat maps. Muller and Lewandowski spent most of the time outside the box. You're not going to get chances. Fine. Great.
Do you think, here's a thought, do you think if Flick wasn't the manager I know this is a stupid scenario because it didn't happen. Do you think if Marco Rose was in charge of Bayern Munich last season, he would have repeated the same thing as what Flick did? If anything, better.
Do you think he would have won the Champions League, won the league? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how I feel about Flick because look, he deserves the credit. If you lead a team to win a trophy or two, you deserve the credit. And people can say he had the place. Flick. No, we're not. But what I'm saying is that there are managers in that league that are used to limits, and they have shown that they can make the best out of it. The Dortmund manager, I always forget his name. The previous
Lucien Favre.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's a bad manager. I'm saying he's good at recruitment, but they never got the results when it mattered, and that's why they missed out on trophies for me.
There are 2 extremes, Lucien Favre and Flick. Flick is almost you want to play like this, you want to do this, dribble all the time, do whatever you want. That's what you want, because we even saw tonight, Sané just carrying the ball when he should have released it a bit earlier. If you were under Pep Guardiola still, he would have got shouted at nonstop.
Yeah.
Flick is just, express yourself, do this and that. Whereas Lucien Favre is also on the other extreme of the spectrum, which is, there's even a rule with Lucien Favre that you can't shoot from a certain position on the pitch.
Really?
you have to be in a position for shooting to be able to shoot. So that things like that really infuriate players when they play for Lucien Favre, because they are so restricted. Whereas with Flick, it's the complete opposite, and Flick's got the squad to be able to perform. Well, it's not. I mean, I've never been bored watching Lucien Favre teams play, but
no,
it's probably boring to play for. Oh look, I'm outside the box. I've got a chance. I feel it. Favre in my ear saying, "Don't shoot, pass it." And that's just one. There are two extremes. Flick is on one end, and I think that Rose is perfectly in between. He's a very lenient manager, but also in a way that he has a great sense of discipline that's implemented into his players, and it's why he will probably be in a top club soon.
You see, this is why I always have I always believe the real managers are the ones that when they've won and they've been at the top, they have to adapt and prove that they can do it again, which I think is the hardest part about being a manager. Like Jurgen Klopp right now with Liverpool, he's got to prove that he can do it again. And like we've seen with Pep Guardiola, in all fairness to Pep, he's gone to different clubs and he's done it. But I look at Flick and think, I think you're a one-timer. I don't see.
It's hard to say. He's not even been 12 months in the job, so
exactly.
He's been over 12 months, but look, it's hard to say. I agree with what you mean, but it's a working system, and maybe if 1 out of the 8 times that he's tried recently, it's not worked. He's still first. He's still in a good position in the Champions League. So why change? If suddenly he goes through 3 matches where he loses, that's when we start to see the real manager come out.
And that
Flick.
rarely happens.
I agree with you what you mean, but we haven't got to that stage yet.
No, you're right. It's one defeat. Don't jump on the train. I get it.
But they have. This is the 9th game in a row where they have fallen behind in the match.
Yeah,
so
and that's a big worry.
That's damning.
A lot of people always say they're comeback kings, or other clubs can say, "Oh, we would come back and win." But it's like, yeah, but when does it stop? Because you've got to control the game at some point, and to prove that you could do against the big clubs, where when you go a goal behind against a really good team, it's very hard to change that. I mean, Leipzig, for example, could show that against Bayern Munich, or Dortmund, for example. But yeah, I just look at Rose and think, there's something about him where I'd love to see him get the Bayern job at some point. I'm not saying Flick should go now. I'm just saying, look, Bayern will look at him closely, I think, and look at the fact that, look, he's got Monchengladbach to the last 16 against Real Madrid and Inter Milan. And he got them nearly, well, I'm not saying nearly won the league, but they were competing till the last few weeks of that competition. So, yeah, I don't know. It's easy, but I just think, that's what I love about managers who start off at lower league clubs, because they learn it properly and they actually show their real skills. Like Eddie Howe at Bournemouth, for example, I believe has done a good job there. And and Brendan Rodgers, for example, at Leicester. We can go on and on and on. But Seb, we must, I think you know what's going to happen right now, because our team, Monchengladbach, have beaten the champions of Europe. And I think we must. I've got it on. It's all right. Just sing with me. Dub, 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 dub,
Brilliant.
dub, dub, dub. It's just beautiful.
It's what we love to hear.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's what it's all about.
We heard that 3 times tonight because they beat them 3-2.
Even more so because we kept repeating it.
Yeah. Oh, what a win for Borussia Monchengladbach. 3-2 against Bayern Munich.